An autobiography or the story of my experiments with truth by MK Gandhi. The story of my experiments with truth, part 1. In part 1, we have 25, 24, 25 sub chapters. So we will see all chapters one by one. Now I start with the first sub chapter, birth and parentage. The Gandhis belonged to the Banya caste and seem to have been originally grocers. But for three generations from my grandfather, they have been prime ministers in several Kathiawad states. Uttam Chand Gandhi, alias Ota Gandhi. My grandfather must have been a man of principle. State intrigues compelled him to leave Porbandar, where he was Diwan, and to compelled him to leave Porbandar, where he was Diwan, and to seek refuge in Junagadh. There he saluted the Nawab with the left hand. Someone, noticing the apparent discourtesy, asked for an explanation, which was given thus: the right hand is already pledged to Porbandar. Ota Gandhi married a second time. Having lost his first wife, he had four sons by his first wife and two by his second wife. I do not think that in my childhood I ever felt or knew that these sons of Ota Gandhi were not all of the same mother. The fifth of these six brothers was Karamchand Gandhi, alias Kaba Gandhi, and the sixth was Tulsidas Gandhi. Both these brothers were prime ministers in Porbandar. One after the other, Kaba Gandhi was my father. He was a member of the Rajasthani court. It is now extinct, but in those days it was a very influential body for settling disputes between the chiefs and their fellow clansmen. He was for some time prime ministers in Rajkot and then in Wanakaner. He was a pensioner of the Rajkot estate when he died. Kaba Gandhi married four times in succession, having lost his wife each time by death. He had two daughters by his first and second marriages. His last wife, Putli Bai, bore him a daughter and three sons, I being the youngest. My father was a lover of his clan, truthful, brave, and generous, but short tempered. To a certain extent, he might have been given to carnal pleasures, for he married for the fourth time when he was over 40. But he was incorruptible and had earned a name for strict impartiality in his family as well as outside. His loyalty to the state was well known. An assistant political agent spoke insultingly of the Rajkot Thakur Sahab, his chief, and he stood up to be insulted. The agent was angry and asked Kaba Gandhi to apologize. This he refused to do and was therefore kept under detention for a few hours. But when the agent saw that Kaba Gandhi was adamant, he ordered him to be released. My father never had any ambition to accumulate riches and left us very little property. He had no education, save that of experience at best. He might be said to have read up to the fifth Gujarati standard of history and geography. He was innocent, but his rich experience of practical affairs stood him in good stead in the situation of the most intricate questions and in managing hundreds of men of religious training. He had very little, but he had that kind of religious culture which frequent visits to temples and listening to religious discourages make available to many Hindus. In his last days, he began reading the Gita at the instance of a learned Brahmin friend of the family, and he used to repeat aloud some verses every day at the time of worship. The outstanding impression my mother has left on my memory is that of saintliness. She was deeply religious. She would not think of taking her meals without her daily prayers. Going to Haveli, the Vaishnav temple, was one of her daily duties as far as my memory can go back. I do not remember her having ever missed the Chaturmas. She would take the hardest woes and keep them without flinching. Illness was no excuse for relaxing them. I can recall her once falling ill when she was observing the Chandrayana vow, but illness was not allowed to interrupt the observance. To keep 2 or 3 consecutive fasts was nothing to her. Living on one meal a day during Chaturmas was a habit with her. Not content that, not content with that, she fasted every alternate day during one Chaturmas. During another Chaturmas, she vowed not to have food without seeing the sun. We children on those days should stand staring at the sky, waiting to announce the appearance of the sun to our mother. Everyone knows that at the height of the rainy season, the sun often doesn't condense to show his face. And I remember days when, at his sudden appearance, we would rush and announce it to her. She would run out to see with her own eyes, but by that time the fugitive sun would be gone, thus depriving her of her meal. That doesn't matter, she would say cheerfully. God did not want me to eat today. And then she would return to her round of duties. My mother had a strong common sense. She was well informed about all matters of state, and ladies of the court thought highly of her intelligence. Often I would accompany her, exercising the privilege of childhood, and I still remember many lively discussions she had with the widowed mother of the Thakur Sahab. Of these parents, I was born at Bobandar, otherwise known as Sudamapuri, on the 2nd October 1869. I passed my childhood in Porbandar. I recollect having been put to school. It was with some difficulty that I got through the multiplication tables. The fact that I recollect nothing more of those days than having learnt in company with other boys to call our teacher all kinds of names. Many strongly suggest that my intellect must have been sluggish and my memory raw. Thank you.